My name is Max Rameau, spelled R-A-M-E-A-U. I'm with the Center for Pan-African Development, also with the Take Back the Land movement. And we are now sitting in the Umoja Village, which is Unity Village, where we took back the land here on 62nd Street and Northwest 17th Avenue in Liberty City. So in South Florida, the housing boom has been very big here, which means that gentrification and forcing people out has been very big as well. And a group of us has been working on this issue since at least 1996 on the issue of affordable housing, particularly for low-income people, particularly for low-income black people. And of course that means, especially as it relates to public housing, low-income black women. So we've been working on that issue for a number of years, trying to make sure that the pool of affordable housing remains large. The county, Miami-Dade County, and the city of Miami, which is the largest city in the county, have both been very reluctant to build affordable housing, low-income housing. And in fact, it seems that during an affordable housing crisis, which started in the late 1990s, instead of building more affordable housing, the city and the county have been producing less affordable housing. So reducing the number of affordable housing units, which just defies logic, at least in the way that we would normally think of it, where a housing agency would be responsible for creating more affordable housing. So they've been tearing down apartment buildings, low-income apartment buildings. They've been removing public housing units, emptying public housing units, instead of filling them up, and instead of occupying them, they've been making them vacant, and they've just been putting in all kinds of little programs and policies, public policies, which have reduced the number of affordable housing units. So it didn't take too long before we realized that the local governments, instead of being an ally in the fight for low-income and affordable housing, have been one of our biggest enemies. So whatever market forces exist and whatever market forces have done, it has been augmented and exacerbated by what the county and city governments have done. So this has gone out through the late 1990s. We did everything we could. We met with individual officials. We created our own proposals. We submitted them. We lobbied. We protested. We talked nice. We did all that. And we put together coalitions in different configurations just to maximize impact. We put some all-black groups together. We helped form some mixed groups, and we formed some all middle-class groups, which would appeal to the good senses of the elected officials. And none of those seemed to work. They seemed completely oblivious to our demands, to our wants, to our needs, etc. So we've been complaining about this and about the affordable housing crisis and about the public corruption that obviously was going on for a number of years. And during those complaints, we haven't gotten any feedback at all, virtually. So we are now pretty much fed up with where they are. In the summer of 2006, a series of articles came out in the paper of record in Miami Herald, which detailed the corruption which had been going on. And I mean, the corruption was just on a massive, massive scale, which we suspect didn't always have evidence. Sometimes we did have evidence. And the series showed how millions, tens of millions of dollars were stolen and diverted from poor people programs. So money which was supposed to be used to provide housing for very low-income people on fixed income, the elderly, people on welfare, the homeless, were diverted to give to millionaire developers, and they had to do basically nothing for the money. So this really created a sense of public outrage which didn't exist before, strictly on the arguments of public policy. So we felt like some political space was won and gained there, and we were very interested in taking advantage of stepping into that political space and doing something about it, and that's what we ultimately did. And as we met and as we followed the news stories and everything, we started to realize that there were not a whole lot of options available to us. The primary things that people were doing, there was another coalition which got together, by the way, called the Emergency Housing Coalition, very large coalition with a lot of different organizations in it, very broad-based, and they did great work in terms of coming up with sets of demands and meeting with the elected officials and doing a lot of media work, and just able to get out and say, this is what the community wants and demands. So everyone was excited about that. And as that was moving forward, though, we began to realize that we were going to the ones who were responsible for the problem and asking them then to solve the problem. And that was not going to work. And we started getting little evidence here and there that wasn't going to work. Ultimately, the effort would fizzle out. And in spite of all the efforts of the Emergency Housing Coalition, excuse me, it did fizzle out, because they went there, they had a 100 people or so who spent the night outside of City Hall in a tent city. Spent the night outside of City Hall to dramatize the impact of a lack of affordable housing. This was right before a city meeting in September, where they were doing the county meeting meeting in September, where they were determining what the budget would be and therefore how much extra money they would put into housing to make up for the tens of millions of dollars that were stolen. Ultimately, they decided to put in $11 million, which it's not all that clear that even $1 of the $11 million was in response to this group, because so really it was $6 million was extra, and $40 million even was a drop in the bucket, and then when you count inflation and all the other stuff, it really was not a whole lot of money that was put in. And it's not all that clear they wouldn't have given $6 million anyhow before the scandal even broke.
Have people been fired because of this? I mean,
there were a couple people resigned, like 4 people. So it was not a whole lot of things. And then one developer was arrested, and it was the developer who took $9 million, I believe it was, and did not build a single unit. Other developers have taken more money than that, and they built 1 or 2 units. So they had their track record was not much better, but because they did build at least 1 unit, it would happen. This was also not a very well connected developer. He had some connections, obviously, at the contract, but this is not some huge developer. It's a small-time developer. And therefore, all the big developers were protected, and all the elected officials were protected. So no elected officials went to jail. Even the high-level staff who were fired weren't arrested, weren't criminally charged with stealing money. Now, if I go to someone and steal $10 out of an old lady's purse, I'll do time in jail. But these guys stole tens of millions of dollars from tens of thousands of poor people, and they got nothing at all. So as we started to realize that going down the traditional route, doing things the way you're supposed to do, would not bear any fruit, we started planning what some of the alternatives would be. And we took a step back and thought about the bigger picture, the bigger concepts, the bigger ideas at play here. And one of the things we felt very strongly about is that we have a real disconnect between the community and the land which the community sits on, or the community lives in, or the community works on. So we wanted to reestablish that connection and not have to go through a middle person. So we didn't want to have the relationship to be people, government, and then the land, or people, developer, and then the land. We wanted people to have a direct relationship to the land. We wanted to control the land in our own community directly and decide what is done with that land, how that land is used, and also tie that in, obviously, with the housing crisis and the most extreme version of the housing was homelessness. The most extreme homelessness. So we did that. We decided that we're going to, the only way that we could really address this thing without going through the government would be to take direct control of the land. We researched what our legal options would be, and we found the Pottinger settlement, which I was familiar with. There was a lawsuit filed in the late 80s where during the time the city of Miami would arrest homeless people for all kinds of minor infractions and throw all their things away, all their personal belongings, throw them in dumpsters, burn them, steal them, whatever it is they would do with them. So a group of lawyers tied to the ACLU filed a lawsuit, and the lead plaintiff there was Pottinger. So again, the Pottinger versus City of Miami was the lawsuit. City of Miami, recognizing they were going to lose, came to a settlement, so they had the Pottinger settlement. And what the Pottinger settlement said, in essence, was that it is not illegal to be homeless. So therefore, anyone who is engaged in illegal activity, which also are the term is quality of life, license. So anyone who is homeless and engaged in illegal activity, which is also life-sustaining conduct, cannot be arrested for engaging in that life-sustaining conduct as long as they are on public land. So life-sustaining conduct includes changing, taking a bath, going to the bathroom, defecating or urinating in public, on public land, eating, making a fire to eat, and building temporary structures to protect one from the elements, as well as congregating a whole series of other things.
What year was this settlement?
The settlement, the lawsuit was filed, I believe, in '89. The settlement took place in 1996.
Okay.
So in 1996, the settlement was entered into. So in 1996, it essentially was no longer illegal to be homeless in the city of Miami.
Okay.
And the homeless had a whole bunch of rights, things that they could do, which even though they were technically misdemeanors, they would not be arrested for under a whole range of circumstances. So we felt empowered by the Pottinger settlement to not only do this, but to do it legally. That they could not arrest us for engaging in this kind of activity. Just to be clear, too, if there was no Pottinger settlement, we still would have done it.